Hey everybody, so wanted to give you a quick video on how I advise people to use the textbook because I've noticed that most folks don't use it effectively. Probably almost everybody, myself included when I started college, I really didn't know how to effectively use the textbook and get my money's worth for it. And so these are three things that you can do to really accelerate your learning and probably even spend less time than you are. If you're the kind of person that like rereads and has to reread and maybe you read a page and you're like, I don't really know what happened, you got to go back. This is going to help address that and really up your game and prepare you for tests and quizzes. So this also helps with folks, they say, I do the homework and it goes well, and then I go to take a test and I kind of freeze up. I think this is going to help that greatly. So I'll explain what these three are really quickly, show you what I mean, and then recap at the end. So these three things: getting your hands dirty while reading and taking notes. This is a different way of reading through the section of the textbook that I'll show you explicitly how to do. It's probably very different than what you've done before. It's meticulous, it's slow, but it is probably going to be faster than rereading and rereading it over and over again. Taking examples in the text section as a pop quiz, and then at the end taking those exercises and practicing them as an exam. So I'll show you what I mean with an example here. So here's just a random section from a pre-calc textbook. So what I mean when I say getting your hands dirty reading is the format of a textbook for math specifically is usually the same, where there will be a piece of content, so I'm talking about like right in here, where they'll be explaining an idea. And so this is about piecewise functions. It gives you a few properties, maybe an explanation, and then it gives you an example. So what I would do is I would read this section, take notes, make sure you kind of understand it. You're probably going to have a partial understanding and still have some questions. And then what you'll do is you'll cover up this solution part, right, so that you don't have access to this, and just try to play with this example and test your understanding right here and now. And the reason that this is valuable is this is what I call getting your hands dirty, because you're actually playing with the idea before looking at the solution. There's this illusion of learning that you can get if someone explains something to you and you feel like, oh, okay, I understand that. But if you don't actually test it and groove that pathway in your brain, you're actually not learning it. It just seems like you are. That's what they call the illusion of competence in learning theory. And so this task of covering up the solution and just playing with the example, you'll probably not succeed very often, or you'll still have some gaps, but that testing of your understanding is what really counts. So doing this honestly, and then afterwards reading through the solution, it will be more meaningful to you because you've already kind of come up across the problems of the idea. So this is what I'm talking about when I say getting your hands dirty, because you're kind of engaging with the problem right away instead of just kind of passively looking at it, which will lead to that illusion of competence later. So there might be one or two examples like this and you treat it the same way. Okay, we'll read this example. I would try this without looking at the solution, then take a look at the solution, okay, and compare what I had, and there you'll have that aha moment a little bit more often than maybe you would without doing this. So here this section has a lot of examples. But again, the next idea would be typically bracketed out. There's going to be some notes and text here. Read, take notes, write question marks on what you don't quite understand, and then again, tackling examples and solutions in that same way I said before. So that's what I mean when I say getting your hands dirty. And that's also the component for examples as pop quizzes, right? Because you're kind of in between these blurbs of the text. You are now pop quizzing yourself on just that small bite-sized idea. And now you'll get to the end of the section and you'll be typically assigned odd-numbered practice problems, right? Because the odd solutions are in the back of the textbook typically. So you'll do some practice problems here. What people will normally do is do a problem, check their answer. If it's right or wrong, maybe grapple with that. But what you want to do here is take each of the problems that you've been assigned and do them in sequence as if you were taking a test. So you kind of get into the mindset of, right, I'm going to take this as if it were a quiz or an exam and test what I know right now. And what you're doing is two things. You're putting yourself into the mind state of someone who's taking an exam, and research shows that the more you practice that, the more comfortable you become, the less anxious you become during a test and you'll actually do better. And the second is, again, you're forcing that recall from the section you just read. And at the end, when you go back and look at the solutions to check your answers, that reverse engineering and comparing of ideas is going to be that much more meaningful and impactful for your learning. So again, these are just 3 things you can do that probably will take you less time, if not the same amount of time you were doing before, but it will absolutely up your game. So I've had a few students that will typically bomb the first test and have come to me with, hey, I don't really know, what's going on. I'd like to try something different. This is the advice I give to them. And the folks that take this seriously have done nothing but excellent work for the rest of the semester. And I really think it's just because we haven't really talked about how to effectively practice outside of class. And so this is how I would do that. So hopefully you found this helpful, and let me know if you have any questions.